Middle Eastern wedding. Oh, nice. Kurdish Oh, it's got it. Good. So we're good? Let me get there. Hang on. I'll add Robert to it.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Let me get the haikus first because that one is it's got a good Robert level. It's not as sexually oriented. Cool. Robert.
Haikus for the White House. George Bush. Skunk in the house.
Hello, hello, hello.
Who's happy when?
How does the microphone sound? Good?
Change.
Good?
Friend and foe.
Continue,
off
continue.
the book of life.
How does that sound? How about that? Ooh, that's powerful. All right.
Haiku
All right.
rummy.
Down.
Absence of presence is no proof of absence.
Okay. All right.
War crimes.
Okay.
George Bush 2. 30,000 more or less. My goofy grin. Haiku kanji. No one's so smart she can't be stupid. Black oil. Alberto Gonzalez. Little man. Glasses. Wiretaps. Torture.
Robert cracked me up with that, man. He was hilarious. He was absence of proof is no proof of absence.
So good to see you, man. I'm Michael.
Michael, hi.
I help Eric. Certain things around here.
Nice to meet you.
He's the man. Definitely.
We're good, Eric?
Yeah. But, so
Yeah.
there's really this is one of those monsters with no
Okay.
head. We're just trying to do this organically. So it's beautiful you guys are playing. So you can kind of, as you feel it, fill in from the middle or the end, do the whole thing. And I'm just going to make, a couple remarks, a little short poem by Robert, and then let people, as they feel the spirit, come up. Because I know emotionally this is a different event.
Should we just chill or come back and forth? Or?
Well, Eric, I know you got the feeling, man. Coming, going, solo,
We can just come and go.
or making a few comments
That way,
too, obviously.
somebody might feel,
Yeah, and you guys, Robert, and again, a testament to him, whatever it is.
Sure.
We'll have a little bit of background on the tunes before each one.
Oh, good.
So we've got
that's always nice. That's always appreciated by people.
how we got there.
Yeah,
The story
absolutely.
of it all, how I first met Robert. 30
Yeah,
years
no,
ago,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Then we drink enough wine and people will be weeping in the aisles, But go easy now, go easy.
Yeah, no. We definitely did more than drink wine with Robert.
Yeah. That's good. All right.
Wow.
It was nice finally to meet you, too.
Yeah, Mike, thank you,
Nice finally to meet you over there, man.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
God bless you, too, my brother.
Absolutely.
Man, absolutely. I feel right at home here.
Yeah, I do
Home,
too.
like this.
Yeah, that's Eric. It's testament to him.
Oh, there's Rent back there.
Rent Romans, huh?
There's Rent.
Isn't it?
start off with
Yeah.
a tune and bring folks up, then in the middle play another thing, and then
Yeah, something like that. And I'll make the kind of
okay.
welcoming comment or whatever.
Sure,
We'll get
sure.
to it later. Yeah. Where's Eric? Eric. So are we close to get? Yeah.
We'll start off with my tune.
Okay. And then
It's political, it's topical, it's timeless.
yes, it is.
Almost makes you wish for the good old days of
Jay.
Bush and Cheney. Almost.
Almost. They weren't. They weren't as wacky. Things just keep going.
Wow.
This is really.
I can't even imagine what Robert would have done with this mess.
No,
But these last cast of characters, man.
all right, I'll tell people that. Yes.
If you're not going to use it anymore, there's a, it was on the counter up front. As long as people don't try to use it. All right. So yeah. Okay. So
Ready to
ready?
go?
I'm gonna go turn out the lights. Once the lights are all out, then you can start.
Yeah, Eric, I think what we'll do is I'll talk about one of Robert's tunes.
Okay.
We'll play a tune, then other folks will come up, and then we can play another one, and maybe later at the end we'll play.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the lights are down, you'll know you can start.
Okay.
Get some wine after the first tune.
Okay. I'll go for that.
Yeah.
Ain't no shame in my game.
No,
No.
not at all.
Not a,
I know right where I'm going, right over
yeah.
there.
Same here.
Oh.
All right, folks, we're going to get started. First, I want to thank Eric, of course, for hosting this event in a very special place. A lot of, as you know, a lot of sublime things have taken place in this bookstore. Jerry Ferraz has presided over a lot of the poetic, divine events, and been a lot of music and a lot of unexpected delights over the years. One of which tonight is the fact we have fortune cookies with Robert's verse inside of them. His friends Molly and Sylvie have been so kind and beautiful to do that. It's, we have plenty of wine, plenty of things to eat, like cookies, all sorts of things. Now, this event doesn't have there's no program, no presiding authority doing this. We're just feeling it, and Charles and Eric are two gentlemen who know what it means to feel it and express it. They're, going to be kind of in and out as things seem appropriate. I know Jerry is going to do some music. A lot of folks, have some things, personal statements they'd like to make, appreciations for Robert. You're welcome to feel ecstatic. You're welcome to feel sad as the mood strikes you. And we're going to see how we're going to do with no master of ceremonies. I want to read a little thing that Robert did, call a little card he put out. It's called We. Betrayal, our element. We are the true of heart. What ends continues. What begins interrupts. Everything spilling into the abyss of the future. A massacre already has occurred or will soon occur. feeling of perfectly normal. Nous sommes tous sauvages. We are all wild and dangerous. So, and just a little, yeah, that's Robert. That's Robert at his trenchant best. And I just want to read a poem of mine called Pseudo Haiku. As for I, we like cake and we like pie. All dead by and by. Great. All right, let the fun begin.
Thank you, Michael and Eric, for hosting this, and it's great to see so many of Robert's friends here. This is just amazing. Robert was around; he'd be pissed. He'd be, man, I wish I was there when you guys are doing this at Burn Beckett Hall. Come on. I'll just, you know, that's true, Charles. I'll just say that I met Robert. I don't know, my God, 20, 30 years ago, or whatever it was, 20 some years ago. My wife Celia has known him. They were in Africa together, you know, traveling back in the 70s. And we met in D.C., played in a band, and when we moved to San Francisco, we actually moved about 10 blocks away from Robert and his beloved Nona. And Robert used to host these Christmas parties, which were a lot of fun. And we were in the kitchen, as folks often are at Christmas parties. And Robert and I got talking about music and what we like to do and poetry. And I said, well, Robert, what do you know about poetry and jazz? He said, like, well, there's the Last Poets. I know about them. And I said, do you know about William S. Burroughs? And Robert said, oh, are you kidding? Of course. And I said, have you ever heard of Bill Laswell's material? He's like, no. I said, well, Burroughs did an album with Bill Laswell and his band Material, Ronald Shannon Jackson and all that whole crew, Sonny Sharrock, and called Hallucination Engine. And it was great. And I said, Robert, we could do something like that. He's like, oh, man, let's try it. So fortunately, my next door neighbor on Fulton Street, Mr. Unger, Mr. San Francisco Jazz, we had a band called the Unidentified Flying Quartet with Sam Peoples and Mike Shea. And I said, Robert, what if we took our music and added your poetry to it? He's like, wow, let's do it. So Robert was always gung-ho. So I was listening to Bobby Hutcherson's Sierra, and I thought, oh, that's beautiful. Robert had this tune called Haikus for the White House. I said, oh, let me play this. I put Robert's voice to it. He's like, man, let's do it. I said, well, you know, I'm on this nonprofit record label, Edgetone. Rent Romas, he doesn't really like using covers. Let me run it by him. I play it for Rent. Rent goes, oh, it's really nice. Hey, is that Sierra by Bobby Hutcherson? You can't use that. So, sorry, Rent, you know. So I said, damn, what am I going to do? Make your own music. Thank you, Rent. Thank you for that. And I've lived by that ever since. And so I said, you know what? Let me pull a quick one on Rent. Let me take Sierra and play it in reverse. All right, oops. Anyway, that became Robert's Haikus for the White House. So with today's politics, I'm not even going to go there. Robert would be turning in his grave over the crap that's been going on now. I don't know what he would have written about it, but back in the day, Celia and I worked with him in Monona when they did their protest works, buttons and T-shirts and liar, liar, pants on fires and IMF'd, you know, monetization and all that kind of stuff and globalization. And we did this song, and it was during the day of Bush and Cheney and Wolfowitz. So Charles and I are going to play this little ditty, Robert's Haikus for the White House, and then folks can come up, and then probably in the middle we'll come back and play something else, and more folks will come up, and then at the end we'll play another one of my favorite of Robert's poems. So this one's called Haikus for the White House. It's still topical, sadly, today.
George Bush, skunk in the house. Who's happy when the leader smiles? Dick Cheney, friend and foe often look alike. Shoot first. Haiku rummy, absence of presence is no proof of absence. War crimes. George Bush too, 30,000 more or less. My goofy grin. Haiku Kandi, no one's so smart you can't be stupid. Black or white. Alberto Gonzalez, little man behind glasses. Wiretaps, torture. All Wolfowitz, plan war, jump to World Bank. McNamara, Karl Rove, big ambitions, Pillsbury doughboy face, hates the messenger. Karl Rove too, loves to hate the enemy, waging war on fellow Americans. Neocon haiku, chicken hawks never fought, want world domination. GI haiku want, how come I'm the bloody redcoat? Where's daddy? GI haiku 2, never thought they'd shoot back. Where's daddy? GI haiku 3, they hate us. All my guts coming apart. Et voilà.
Eric Smith,
Charles Unger,
cast of thousands.
Cast of Thousands.
Well,
So if folks would like to come up and have say something about
about
Robert. I'll say a few things about Charles. About Robert. Come on, man.
Come on, you're next. Yeah.
Come on up, my man. You can use that microphone right there. You can use that microphone right there.
Need a seat.
Oh, shoot. Let me hook you up.
Oh, thank you. And this is on Joe Ledbetter is his name, Leadbelly. And he was the only guy to sing his way out of the joint.
Are you gonna sing a little bit?
Yeah.
Why don't you sing into this one, please?
All right.
Let me bring it over next to you. That we can use that to pick up your guitar. Why not? That'd be good like that. So pick it up all right. Could be better on a boom, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so Leadbelly used to play the governor's parties. So the last thing that the governor did when he left office was to give Leadbelly a full pardon. But anyway, this is Take This Hammer. Take this hammer, carry to your captain. Take this hammer, carry to your captain. This old hammer, carry to your captain. Tell him I'm gone, boys. Tell him I'm gone. If he asks you, was I running? Lord, if he asks you, was I running? If he asks you, was I running? Tell him I was flying. Tell him I was flying. If he asks you, was I laughing? Lord, if he asks you, was I laughing? If he asks you, was I laughing? Tell him I was crying. Tell him I was crying. This old hand killed John Henry. This old hammer killed John Henry. This old hammer killed John Henry. Won't kill me, boy. Won't kill me. Take this hand, carry it to the governor. This 9-pound hand, carry it to the governor. This old hammer, carry it to the governor. Tell him I'm gone. Tell him I'm gone.
There you go. There you go.
I think I need my glasses. You're gonna rue the day you did this, Jerry.
Is that microphone at a good height for you?
I don't know. What do you think?
That's all right.
Ooh,
It'll pick her up.
what do you think?
8 inches.
All right. All right. When a poet dies. When a poet dies, the birds don't just stop singing. They fall out of the trees and onto the ground, and the fruit on the trees withers and dies. The flowers don't just lose their perfume, they dry up and turn black on the vines, and the naked vines twist in the wind. When a poet dies, the rivers don't just overflow. They plow the earth into muddy ditches, and the earth becomes barren and useless. The dogs don't just stop their barking. They whimper and moan in troubled sleep, and blessed sleep is given to none. When a poet dies, the mountains don't just crumble. They break apart into jagged stones, and the stones tumble and fall into the sea. The oceans don't just crash upon the shore. They threaten the land with towering waves, and all creation lives in peril. When a poet dies, the sky doesn't just turn dark. The sun is obscured, and the stars leave for other galaxies. The moon doesn't just turn red in anger. The man there ceases to smile, and his terrible scowl haunts our dreams. When a poet dies, other poets don't just cry. They hold their broken hearts in bloody hands and wish their hearts were words. No words are enough to sop up the pain and loneliness of a poet's death, and nothing can ease the pain, the sour taste of our loss when a poet dies. That's my fault.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Rant.
Yeah.
Rant.
I'm so glad to see so many folks here tonight. I was getting a little worried because when we did the memorial show at the Union, it was more of a normal turnout. That's all I'm
But it
going
was
to say.
heartfelt, Rant.
Well, you know, it's always in our hearts. But of course, we were all in the grips of all the craziness that's
The audience
been
with double
ensuing,
fingers?
and also the fact that a lot of our friends and colleagues have passed on more than ever in the last couple of years, and it's been terrible not to have ritual. But I was so my name is Rent. I run the label that supported Robert's works on audio disc and download. You can find his stuff now worldwide. I brought his audiobook. For those of you who don't have it, it's free. You can take it home, or if you want to make a donation, just give it to Eric to keep this space going. So, but it's a double CD. It's a sleeper. It's a beautiful recording, and it didn't get as much love as I was hoping. When I was updating his bio today, making it, to the past tense, because I realized I hadn't done that, I found he was like a lot of us, DIY, writing our own stuff, having to write our own bios, write our own reviews at times, just to try to get the word out. I'm sure a lot of us know what that's like. But I'm going to read this. This is something he supplied to me, which is online, and I think it pretty much sums up why he's on Edgetone and why I know him as a friend. That Anbian, a leading voice in the San Francisco poetry underground, isn't more widely known, is as much a tribute to his odd man out obstinacy as to the usual reluctance of society to deal with its critics. Yet, obstinacy has a point. Anbian writes a poetry that won't surrender an inch of imaginative freedom to love, hate, or ideology. His own, above all, with I Not I, which is available here now, the word comes from the poet himself in a writer's voice that is, in a language demotic, impassioned, and little peculiar. Included in this powerful follow-up to his 2007 Poetry and Jazz CD, Robert Anbian and the Unidentified Flying Quartet. Thank you for Eric and Charles for being here tonight. Also on Edgetone is a sweeping selection from Anbian's epical We series in a new sequence enacting the poem's contingent, open-ended form. This is an important recording for anyone interested in poetry, spoken word literature, anti-literature, and the troubled junctures of our culture and politics. I thought that pretty much summed up what I knew and the connection I had with Robert. And I'm so glad again that you're all here to celebrate his legacy and the works that he has left here on the planet. Thank you.
It'll pick you up anyway.
Yeah, I'm not worried. Well, I've known Bob. I can't even remember when I met him, since 1980 or something like that, and we met through different political poetry groups and so forth. And he published through Nighthorn Books my third collection of political poetry, and which I want to read for. And also, through the years, we actually bought a building together, my husband and I, and he and Nona. And my husband and I, well, I still live there. My husband is not there right now. And that was in 1991. So the time it's just amazing how the time just goes back and is so precious. And we shared a lot. And Nighthorn Books was a real gem. And I just wanted to read one short translation. I'll just read the English that was in this book. This is Otto René Castillo, Mañana Triunfante, and it's an amazing collection. I hadn't looked at it in a while, and now I know. Facing justice tomorrow. When the enthusiasm of our time is recounted for those yet to be born, but who announce themselves with a kinder face, we will come out winners, we who have suffered most. To be ahead of one's time is to suffer much, but it is beautiful to love the world with the eyes of those still to be born, and splendid to know oneself already victorious when everything around is still so cold, so dark. So here's to Robert, Nighthorn Books, and I know he's with us, so thank you all.
This one, huh? Hi, my name is Angelo. I met Bob, well, right after he got back from Peace Corps from Niger, and he and a number of people who are here started Oboe. So this is the beginning of his dedication to art in all forms, and the incredible support and encouragement that he gave to writers like me. And on top of that, he was an incredible editor. So when we started talking about my collection, he said, you know, I think we probably should publish this. And I thought, I know you, Bob, because he allowed me to call him Bob. His sisters calls him Bobby. I call him Bob. I said, I know you, Bob. This is going to be a tough road. He said, no, it's not going to be so tough. We got together and read line by line every word of every story, and it was painful. But everything that he said brought me to a new place about what I was going to do with my stories. And in the middle of conversations, we would drift off to politics and philosophy, and he would talk his brain out about everything that he knew. He's a very wise man. He was a tough guy, but he was so generous. And I think a lot of writers are out there who can thank him that their words are on the page because of him. Now, he comes from Mount Holly, and so I'm going to read the last poem in Poems for Time Travelers in Love, and it's called Mount Holly Days. Was life really so sweet on top Street? All those summers ago when we used to grope and kiss down by the lake, named for Quaker abolitionist. You know what? I have to put my glasses on. That'd be a bad idea. who was who was never, as a rule, mentioned at the local high school. All those warm Jersey summers ago, when life unfolded like a poem, trucks rumbling in the roads, screen doors slamming closed, kids yelling from yard to yard, dawn to dusk, betwixt one war and the next, shouting all together, Camelot or bust. While up on Mount, clandestine beneath the pines, the duck-tailed boys smoked their ciggies, and the girls with pierced ears, feeling sublime, shouled off their innocent titties. Wasn't that the dream of a time before to count? When we were all small, the devil was after us. Winos lounging on the stoop next to old man's shoops, where the latest Playboy would go on display, making every schoolboy dawdle and delay, linger and loiter in the back, between the magazine and comic book racks, until old man Shoop would shout, tell us to go out and get out, send us flying up High Street, past the churches and the old ladies crying, oops, or prisoners in spring, leaning from the second-story windows of a county jail, pushing tattooed arms through the iron bars, sending cigarette smokes aloft in skinny ecclesiastical trails, calling out to the Catholic school children passing below, don't do like me, you'll hate to go, or again, come a little closer, kid, I'll eat you up. Sending us fleeing along the railroad tracks into the woods behind the housing tracks, where fast away in plywood force, we cut and inked our arms in secret signs, kneeling bare-chested in the dapple moonlight, puked up our guts on sweet Thunderbird wine.
All sounds very familiar.
I chose that because it has a little bit of his eroticism and his sense of past and his way of words. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Gonna miss him every time I sit down to write. I think of Robert.
My name's Lisbeth Bailey. I did not know Bob Anbian very well. I'm not even sure when I met him, but I did hear him read in Jack Hirschman's reading series at the North Beach Library. And I got this from Bob. Has a one of Rebecca's works, the Knight's Gambit collage on the front. And the poem is We 3.11. When did the loneliness enter my body? When did it first curl up and plant its spine in my gut? Is it here since the dawn of human time, or is it mine alone? How could it survive so many fevers of sex and celibacy? So many firestorms of crowds rampaging through years and days. So much mineral heat in the belly. Why is the first feeling to revive after every blaze, as if the thing I recognize first as myself? We tramp the dusty roads and chaotic highways along with millions of others. Under a hot sun, a mighty ocean of heads, pushing toward the borders and checkpoints, at once brothers and sisters and strangers, something is driving us with hopeless intensity. Will a bullet cure the worm? The forces of order strafe us, bomb us, seed us with radioactive dust and lethal pathogens. Their pity withers as we draw nearer. They scorch the earth. We die in legions and survive in legions. We press on, heat, dust, sweat, light. What has been given to us, we will give in return. We, the chaos people, the pre-manufactured people, our cities rinsed with fire. When did the World War begin? When did it end? Comes the day the sun rises twice. I kiss you with my last thought. Alone, I find myself wandering deserted streets under a full moon, sweating in the cool night air. The pavement glows with raw lunar light. A cock keeps crowing at the ghostly dawn. I remember everything. The planet turned upside down, the skeleton bride we embrace. Tomorrow enters today. The host will not survive. Don't run away. Never forget. Listen. Walking, walking, the poems of today singing in our heads, and etc. Arriving at the outskirts of town, murmur of refugees bedding down in the night, flames leaping into the darkness, lighting up circles of faces young and old, hard or dreamy. When did the sky become so large? At what hour did the moon come to a halt above the horizon? At what moment did we cease belonging to the future? I wanted to tell you about all the times I was isolated and afraid, and how the memory of you gave me strength. I, who am nobody, stop in the road. I, who am speechless, open my mouth, and out flies a moth.
So I got to know Bob some. Oh my God, this is. I have to,
You can pull it up.
yeah, it's okay. I can see it. Some 20 years plus through Jack, the late Jack Hirschman, and he often came to the house, and they were sort of the same political persuasion, but they differed, and they argued, nicely so. And actually, after Jack passed, and that I wanted to say that too, and there's so many people we know who knew Robert, who knew Jack, who have passed, and it's fantastic that finally this is happening for Bob. I'm going to get my glasses so I can see what I'm reading. This was actually the book I really liked of Robert's, the wee book, like us. I'm sorry, had some glasses once upon a time. I can probably see. I can see it. Yeah, I like glasses. Actually, every time I come, it seems I left some glasses. These are a bit foggy, but I'm foggy too. So this is the other thing I want to say about Bob's poetry. What I really like about it is brevity and the depth in the brevity. He could say so many things with such few words. All fates coming into one fate, the dream of everyone, everywhere, the gibberish of everyone, everywhere, the war of all against all, on the road from the victory of the defeat of all heads, shit to money and shit to fame, shit to those who think they're all the world. Come, words, give voice to this breath of earth, mud, clay, salt, sand. How long have we been afraid? We are no longer afraid. How, Mother, could you abandon us so? How, Father, you be so wrong? It's a great poem.
I'm Rebecca Peters, and I knew Bob mostly through Ronald Sauer. They were very close mates, and we went to many of Bob's readings, and sometimes he would read a poem, and either Ronald or I would say, "Wow, love that one. Can we do a chapbook of it?" And Lisbeth read one of them. I'll read one of the others. I was reticent to come up because I reprinted this in a hurry and realized I started with the poem I want to read, which is Illumination Breaks Down the Supreme Particle. And then when I got to the second page, realized I had the second page of Go to Gaza. So I will just bring the first page to an end with my voice, but there was another stanza. So I think that would probably amuse Bob, but I'll do my best. And it starts with a little epigram because Bob translated quite a bit of Chinese poetry. And it starts with a little line from Puan. There were those who went frantically seeking. And then this is Bob's piece, Illumination Breaks Down the Supreme Particle. I walked 10,000 miles to write this line. I climbed 1,000 mountains, crossed 1,000 rivers, wandered 1,000 deserts, with nothing more than a pencil and a walking stick. Maybe an old oil lamp, just to make these marks in just this dirt. I walked 10,000 miles through forests of countless trees, plains of limitless horizons, along abandoned roads I abandoned, railroad tracks bending toward infinity, day and night, dawn and dusk, counting the numberless birds and animals, the plants and trees, and even the clouds everywhere along the way, only to say what I have seen. I walked 10,000 miles, encountering no one, then 10,000 souls on the way, and each one was both a devil and a saint, and I was a devil and a saint. I walked 10,000 miles, braving every confusion, to carve a human word in the bark of existence, the hyphens between the dates on 1,000 headstones.
I could go up there and say something. Yeah, I'll go up there and say something. Well, I don't know whether I really need a mic. My wife said I have the loudest voice in the world, of course. I'm Andrew Scott. I run a studio here in the city, Studio 401, and have done a lot of work with Rent. I think he's hiding back here. Edgetone, which is a wonderful label. But I was blessed to have Robert in the studio, and we recorded this double CD here, which is a wonderful CD because Robert's on it. And then we also did the UFQ CD with Robert with the band. And for me, it was a great blessing, working with a poet, spoken word in the studio is very interesting and it's very intimate. And, doing your poetry live is one thing, but when you go in the studio and you listen back to it, you hear all of the glottal sounds and the breaths and all of that sort of stuff. And so it's incredible how many edits we had to do to make it a smooth, clean thing. But Robert was remarkable in the studio, just like working with a great musician. His flow and his just ability to just do it was wonderful. No overdubs. So I was very blessed to have the opportunity to do that with him. And every poem had a story behind it. And so we had many, many conversations about that. So it was very special, and I'm very grateful to him that I had the opportunity to do that. And Ren, thanks for Edgetone putting that out. That's wonderful.
My name is Jessica Lose, for those of you who don't know me. I don't actually remember when I met Robert. It was a while ago, but like with the, all of the poetry and artistic events around here, it kind of blends in with everything else. So it was a while ago, but I'm not sure. One of the things that Robert and I always did and kind of riffed on together is that he loved haikus, as do I. And we had this grandiose plan that we were going to have this haiku read-off, and that he would read one, and I would write one, and he would read one, and I would read one. And they were all going to be about New Jersey, because, like myself, Robert was from New Jersey. So I'm just going to start off with two short haikus that relate to that, New Jersey being a driving culture. This is one that he particularly liked. Of mine. My friends all have cars. I have 2 feet and a bag. They never drive me. I don't like long poems. Fuck it, the long odyssey. I like to write haiku. And so then, also, speaking of New Jersey, this is a poem about Seagirt, New Jersey. And also we used to discuss things about New Jersey, like Taylor ham. Have any of you ever heard of Taylor ham? Byron has, because he's from New Jersey. It's a very special, tri-state area thing that you just don't know what it is if you're not from there. But it's quite, how would you describe it? It's really good. No, the ones in the packets are good. The pork roll ones. No. Anyway, whatever. Well, never mind. We like to talk about Taylor ham. So this is Seagirt. It was Seagirt, New Jersey, at Pat Dodd's, across from the ocean, that I first watched my father play chess. I jumped out of the velvet chair, got a bowl of vanilla ice cream, topped it with creme de menthe. I slurped it. That was the day we had to crack the lobster with the green Pontiac, and I slept in a canopy bed, crashing with waves, checking out. Lena of Estonia, European child chess champ, gave her moves up for poker. It was in the cards, and it wasn't the lobster's hands. And so, then I'm going to read 2 poems from his book, We. Here's the first one. Don't play away the sun before the sunrise. Don't eat the chicken before it's hatched. Don't discover a new world before setting sail. Don't set sail before sinking the boat. Don't get caught between the fork and the meal. And another one. We reach inside the jacket, reach inside the vest. Something is there. Reach inside the shirt, reach inside the nipple, reach inside the shoulder. Something's there. Reach inside the arm, reach inside the biceps, reach inside the bony girdle. Something's there. Reach inside the tissue, reach inside the cartilage, reach inside the drop of blood. Something is there. Reach inside the marrow, reach inside the cell, reach further, inside the shadow, the charge, the emanation, the transparent instant when something is there. Reach all the way through. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that a couple of people had mentioned the journal that Robert published for many years, Oboe. He gave me 2 copies of it a couple of years ago, so I brought them for people to look at in case you haven't seen it and wanted to check it out, and they're right here by the wonderful Fortune cookies. So feel free to check them out.
So I loved hearing those Mount Holly days. And Lisbeth? Lisbeth. I'll just mention when you read that, I knew all the words to that poem because that We 311 became one of the songs on the UFQ album with Robert. And it was a song written by Charles. Charles wrote a song called Astral Aura. And Robert heard that and he's like, oh, the moth flies out. I got to do that. So if you ever want to hear Robert say that, and to music, it's on the Unidentified Flying Quartet album.
You do a great impersonation of
Oh, man, fuck that noise. So now, somebody else said this before me. I was always, I had friends that played with John Giorno, and so I was used to, risque stuff. But Robert did have a obsession about nipples and things like that, so I don't want to call it an obsession. You all know Robert. You know how Robert was. So this next tune was a tune that I really loved of Robert's. It's got some interesting poetry to it. But I really loved it. Robert did a fantastic job. And as Andrew mentioned before, one of the things I think Charles and I noticed about Robert is that although Robert wasn't a musician, whenever we played live on the radio, wherever, Sheba Lounge, it didn't matter. Robert would just look over and he knew the cadence. Yeah. He was like part of the band. He knew what to do, what to say. I bought him a Peter Gabriel headset, so he just loved that. But he just would sit there swaying and rocking. He'd have his wee 3.8 million in front of him, and he would read, and it was amazing. So Robert's great. All right, so this is one of Robert's tunes that I wrote, and Robert added the words to it, called Cultural Affairs. So. If I can find it.
Okay. All right.
is dead. Long live the noble sausage. Long live television. And we're all gonna be typhoons.
Who's up? Next
Next.
up.
Next. That's Molly. Come on.
Hi, my name's Molly Higby. Am I on? Yeah. I'm Molly Higby. Sylvie and I have been friends of Robert and Nona for a long time. Sylvie longer than me, because she was in FAF and a filmmaker. I just wanted to say something to honor also tonight Nona Bailey.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And remember the amazing love between Robert and Nona. And Robert's incredible dedication to Nona through all of her struggles with her health. All the nights he called the ambulance, all the times she went into the emergency room, the many stories of her surviving so many amazing moments where it seemed that she would leave us. And in the summer, no, in May, a year ago, Robert called Sylvie and said to her, Nona's dying. And we knew when he said that that was it. She'd been through so many moments where she could have died and she didn't. But this time, yes, she was dying. And he called us to come and be with him. And we weren't terribly close, but we would always get together a couple times a year. So when he asked, we went. And we were with him. We went to the morning that Nona, they took her off of the medications that were helping her stay alive. We went and spent the breakfast with Robert before he went to the hospital. And then we didn't know the timing of things, of course. So at one point in the day, we just said, we've got to go. So we went to the hospital, and as we were walking in, it was a COVID time, so we had to do all kinds of checks. We got up to the floor where Robert was and just met him at the moment after Nona had passed away. So we caught him and helped him to do the final arrangements at the hospital, got him back home, and sat with him. And we had a little wine, and he started smoking the bowls. So it was a fragile time. He told us everything that they spoke of together in her final moments. They were, going from laughing to crying to laughing to crying, just being together in their amazing love. So that's to remember Nona Bailey. And Robert always wanted to have a memorial of some kind for Nona, but the COVID circumstances and everything, and his, physical difficulties with his arthritis and stuff, just kind of kept him, and his, difficulty just to get it together. It never happened. So let's see tonight as a moment for Nona also, because it never really happened. And she was a wonderful woman, and we all loved her. So another person I want to mention tonight is in the photograph here with Robert. His name is Rolf. Maybe some of you met him because he's... Rolf did a lot of the artwork for Robert's books. We had the pleasure to meet Rolf this past October in Paris. He lives in Switzerland. And so I just want to mention Rolf. I know he would love to be here tonight, but he couldn't be. And there is a photo of Robert and Rolf when they met in Niger in their 20s, when they were both, Robert was in the Peace Corps and Rolf was in the Swiss kind of equivalent of the Peace Corps. So they've been friends since then. So to remember Nona and to bring Rolf into our community here tonight. Thank you very much.
So I'm not going to say much because I have a sore throat and Molly spoke for me. I'm Sylvie. And I would like all of you to take a fortune cookie. And there are two lines. They're haikus. One of them he wrote 20 years ago in our house in Sebastopol. And the other one, I forgot, but you're going to remember the line. And I think it would be great that everyone take one and we could all say it together. There are two lines in each cookies. So we had today kind of, in Chinatown, raining and going to the Ross Alley, getting the fortune cookies and trying to tell in Chinese Robert Anbian and the number and the quotes. Anyway, we got them. We got them. They are fresh. So why don't we pass them along? And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Sylvie.
Just pulled up.
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Dennis. A longtime friend of Bob's or Robert's. We met in high school, and we were friends for over 53 years. And the first time that we had a very serious conversation was on the way walking home from football practice, and which is odd because Bob was pretty small, but he played on the team. And we were both going out with Jewish sisters, and we were trying to give each other advice on how to deal with that. But, it didn't work out. So but that was the intro, and it just went on from there. So we were friends from the age of 13 until into our late 60s. The only problem is that he and I had a falling out in the last couple of years, and we didn't speak. So if he's here tonight, he's probably looking down and saying, "God damn it, you showed up? I mean, you didn't show up at the end, but here you are." So yeah, I showed up. Bob meant a lot to me for all those 53 years. And I'm sorry that, we weren't able to come together in agreement in the last couple of years, but I felt that it was important for me to be here for him and everybody else because I know so much about him. And then one, I can't remember what book it was, but it was one of his early oboes, I think. And at the end, he had a blurb that was about the author's life or something. And he said, in describing himself, that he was a moody son of a bitch. And he was that, a moody son of a bitch. But he was also a very funny person. And he could just get you rolling on the floor laughing about the craziest things. His mind went so fast. And you wouldn't know it, really, unless you knew him closely, that he was as funny as he was literary. Very funny guy. And then something else I wanted to mention, other than the fact that Franco Harris ran him over in second year in high school.
Great story.
I mean, really, just
Great
plowed him
story.
over. But,
Franco.
yeah. What was I going to say besides that? He was the first person I knew that wanted to be an artist. And this he revealed to me when we were maybe second or third year in high school. He always had a passion for literature. He was a great reader, a great dramatist too, a great speaker. And he said, "Yeah, I want to be a writer." Everybody else was thinking about girls or how to get close to them, but he was thinking, "Well, I got to get my words on the page." And he did a good job. I got to say, he did a great job. He was a writer. He was a very excellent speaker. Nobody could deliver a poem quite like Bob. Maybe Allen Ginsberg. But really, I'm serious. He had a real sense of the dramatic. And I just love his poetry. I love it especially when he read his own work. But then finally I wanted to mention he was also a very excellent prose writer. And his last book that I know of was called Seeing the Dog. And it's a collection of short stories. I don't know if many people here know of that, but it is astounding. And I don't know what's going to survive the poetry or the prose, but he's going to have an audience beyond us, for sure. Thank you.
I met Bob and Dennis and some of these other people around the time this one came out in 1980. And it really magnetized me to the whole oboe group. And Bob was the first person who ever published me. He put some of my paintings and a short story of a prose poem in oboe number 5. And then I worked on oboe number 6 as a co-editor, but I didn't bring any of those because they're enormous. They had work by Jack Hirschman, as did most of the oboes, and Kristen Wetterhahn's art was featured, and a lot of the other poets. Thank you. Here, you could put these down there too. Oh, wait. Oh, this mic, what I want to read. Thank you. So I brought some extra copies of some of the books too, another oboe over number 2, and Long Ago Now, and a couple others, so you can look through those. I met Bob at Richard Farella's class called The Figure in Action and Abstraction. And Richard Farella, who's been dead for quite a few years, was a major influence in Robert's life and the life of a lot of us, Dennis definitely, and me. He was my teacher at the Academy of Art. And Dennis and I were in the class, but Bob would stop in the class and just, you know, chat, and he'd pick up a paintbrush, and Richard was like, yeah, come in and audit the class whenever you want. So he'd do these really wild gesture paintings, and we'd work with our right and our left hand at the same time, or with our eyes closed, or, you know, looking only at the model or looking only at the paper. And so I lived in the Haight-Ashbury then, as did Bob, so I got to know him really well, and eventually got involved with him, and there's a lot of history there I won't go into, but I've seen both sides of Bob for sure. And let's see, I was going to read something of his. Jamie, why don't you introduce yourself? Oh, sorry. My name's Jamie Erfurt, and I'm a painter and a poet, and also made experimental films and do some other types of performance. Actually, I think first I'm going to read not the whole poem, but part of the very last poem in We, part 1 through 3. But ban the poets, by all means, because if we aren't worth banning, we're just killing trees. So we drink with fierce laughter the words of dead people singing in our brains, not out of despair, but because with us, they are still alive. In my mind, there remains the air, the breeze, the taste of the sunlight on the attic wall from the time before you had turned into a dream to me. Time is a celestial ladder. I gotta climb up and not slip. You know, I used to have such a grip. Later on, a fight broke out. Someone had fallen in love with a prostitute, and someone threw a folding chair, and someone else had a look of twisted surprise. Ended up backing out, the strangers we were, out into the night, the road past the alley, into the stares of the hungry boys who stood around, hard and listless. Where are the girls, we wondered. In heaven, said one of the boys. No, said another, in hell. Do we have a plan to send them to heaven or to hell? Who could argue? Tomorrow is theirs. We walked on toward the midnight of our lives. Skyscrapers were turning into colorful birds and flying off into the purple sky. Headlights on distant highways circled closer and closer. Spy satellites floated across the rooftops, and green tracers disappeared into the dark firmament. We came upon a southern cross that was no cross at all. Saw the bright dust of the Milky Way spinning out into space, and the tail of time came racing straight at us. We wanted to speak, not pray, these words seeking a voice. When you hear them, I am already dead. Can I read some more? Okay. This one is Long Ago Now, which is one of the ones that Rolf illustrated. And we have a bunch of extra copies of those, so please help yourself to them. I have some more at home. An old friend comes into my dream, bright eyes searching me out in the darkness. We have walked this road many times before. These brown walls are faceless and familiar. We have never forgotten this cloudless night sky. Like old times, we go down to the river's edge. Crouching, we scoop up handfuls of moonlight, bathing our faces in golden splashes. The water runs on, but the light remains. Laughing, we wonder, are we dreaming or drunk or both? When the alarm goes off, it recommences the daily and unending war between sorrow and joy. Life carries on, memory remains. Whenever Li Bai and Du Fu met, they got drunk and parted drunk. Later they wrote poems about the meetings, the drunkenness, and the partings. Always putting in a river, a dark road, a mountain, a moon. How can we, who have only begun to live, ignore the example of these masters whose poems have lasted over 1,000 years? Once I roamed as I pleased, any excuse to cross an ocean or a continent, taking my chances, seeing whomever I wanted, throwing my cautions to the slightest breeze. My door rang with the knocks of other wandering souls. Now the nights are mostly quiet. Communication is instant, yet you remain stubbornly far away. There isn't even a chance of getting drunk together. I swear, my friend, if I ever again take to the open road, I won't stop until the last moon crosses the last river. So there's probably a lot more I could say about Bob, but there's probably other people who still want to speak. So say goodnight. And thank you to everybody who made this possible. I know Angelo did a lot of organizing, and I love the fortune cookie idea. And
Hello. I don't know if this is off topic or something. My mother died last month. So, and this is Blind Willie Johnson. He was a Bible singer in the streets of in New Orleans, and he was one of the really early recordings. And this is motherless children have a hard time when mother is gone. Motherless children have a hard time when mother is gone. Motherless children have a hard time when mother is gone. The children got no place to go, running around from door to door. Motherless children have a hard time when mother is gone. Father will do the best he can when mother is gone. Father will do the best he can when mother is gone. Father will do the best he can. There's so many things a man just don't understand. Motherless children have a hard time when mother is gone. Some people say sister must do when mother is gone. Some people say sister must do when mother is gone. Some people say sister will do. Person, man, come along, she will be untrue. Nobody treats you like mama do when mother is gone. The children got no place to go, running around from door to door. Motherless children have a hard time when mother is gone. Some people say brother must do when mother is gone. Some people say brother must do when mother is gone. Some people say brother must do, or brother just don't know what to do. Motherless children have a hard time when mother is gone. Running around from door to door. Motherless children have a hard time when mother is gone.
fortune cookie.
Don't step on it.
Step on that. I'm gonna wait till I get home to open them and be surprised by Robert. So Charles and I are going to do one more. I just want to mention a couple things. I was so heartened to hear that tribute to Nona earlier. You know, Celia and I, every morning we used to have coffee with Robert and Nona at Beanbag or Bean There, thing down on Waller. Beanbag. Bean There. And Dennis is a great painter. I mean, he painted a picture of Robert and Nona's dog Lefty that was a treasure to Robert. I mean, and Dennis does all kinds of great paintings, but that one, Robert cherished that thing. So, and Lefty was a great dog. Robert would walk him out in the panhandle, the whole deal. But some folks don't know that Celia found that dog grooming business for Nona. And she mentioned it to Nona, and Nona was like, oh, I'd love that idea. And we said, Nona, like, if you get scratched, you bleed. I mean, Nona had a lot of health problems. I mean, Nona cheated death for decades, right? But we talked to Robert. Robert, should Nona do this? And he's like, man, she wants to do it. And Nona was like, oh, I really want to do it. And she opened that business. She bought it from some woman in Marin, and she went there. She had a great little gal. It was like a second daughter to Nona in that shop on that groom shop. And I can't say it added years to Nona's life, but Nona loved that dog grooming business. I mean, until she couldn't do it anymore. She absolutely loved it. I mean, we would go in there and she'd be there and they're sudsing up. She had to get some super thick gloves because, you scratch Nona and it's game over. So I just want to mention that. Thank you guys for mentioning that. Nona was Robert's heart and soul, which it just can't be understated. And to Dennis, I got to say that, when Franco Harris died, what was it, last week, 2 weeks ago? I think of two things when I think of Franco Harris. The Immaculate Reception and the day that I think Dennis and Robert and Ken Masterson told me the story about, Robert was on the football team. I thought he was like the water boy, right? If you can imagine Robert on a football team in New Jersey. And I think Robert's dad, Dennis might correct me if I was wrong, he's one of the coaches or something. And he was, Robert's father always berated him. At least that's the story I always heard. He never thought Robert was going to amount to anything. So Robert was always trying to prove his worth to his father. So his father decided, all right, you're so great, Bob. I'll put you in. So Robert gets in there. He gets his helmet. He gets his pads on. And the only thing standing between the goal line and Franco Harris is Robert. And Robert's determined. I'm not giving this up. Robert goes for Franco's leg. Ken told me that Franco Harris dragged Robert 20 yards across the goal line. He's like, what, Robert, why are you still hanging on? And Robert's just like, I'm not letting go. And of course he gets back to the huddle and his father's like, you call that a tackle? So, those are my thoughts about Franco Harris and just the stick-to-itness of Robert Anbian. So I just want to mention that. Thanks for the Nona things. So now, Charles and I are going to do one more tune. It's actually my favorite of Robert's. I don't know if it was we, might have been a separate thing. And I'm so glad because so many of you read so many of the we poems that Charles and I and Andrew and we all recorded. And I was like, those are really out there. I mean, crazy tunes, but you guys read them. So Charles and I don't have to do them. But this one is one that I absolutely love of Robert's. And it encapsulates the band, everything that Robert did, his genius, his poetic mastery of pacing and everything else. And I always really loved it. So we're going to play this one, and it's his, and Robert actually named this for our album, and it's called Wish We Were Here.
I'm going to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening and know that you are loved and appreciated and wanted. And to all the poets and writers and artists out there, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, Mr. Unger.
It's what we do.
It is what we do. All right, man, let's do this.
Mostly we were content being nowhere. Just a little motel by the roadside with a pool shaped like a kidney bean. Weightless time, peering into the crater of the sky, watching the twin shadows of your nipples lengthen in the sunlight across your swimsuit. Was sweating and moaning in the stuffy, hairy bug Gertrude Reckman's bra and girl shop. You know, on South Street, where all hot and horny kids used to go. We're ordering Peshmel at Hotel Turnus and running off without paying. Who that doom is just around the corner. And later in Rue Gregoire, watching the wine glasses wallow and pitch till they'd thrown themselves onto the sidewalk, smashing themselves to glittering atoms in what looked like pools of dark blood. She inexplicably enraged the waiter, who stormed out swearing like an avenging god. Who knew that a Parisian waiter hadn't read Sartre? The next morning, we took a walk in a field of yellow butterflies. Who can forget? It felt like a good day on the Western Front. You saw me coming, and I saw you, but we never knew what hit us.
Eric Smith.
Thank you. Thank you all for loving Loving Robert. And Noda. And thank you, Eric and Mike, for hosting this thing here, and oboe and Nighthorn, all of that. Robert, I mean, he would have been so mad right now. God, man, I should have been there for that.
Hey, Eric, if they buy the CDs, they go to you, right? Didn't he donate them?
CDs are free. The Robert's like double,
Yeah.
Poetry CD.
Yeah.
The other CD, do we have copies of the UFQ CD here? Did anybody bring
Brent?
some of those?
I have one.
Oh.
Okay, well, you can get them from us. We'll get them to you.
Yeah, I have one
It's called
copy
Robert
with me.
Anbian and the UFQ, the Unidentified Flying
Oh, okay.
Quartet.
Yeah.
You can find them on Edgetone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bandcamp.
But just take copies of that thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to throw money around somewhere, you can donate it to the nonprofit here that helps us put on these things. That's fine.
Yeah.
Michael Koch will have it.
Yeah, well, that's, there's really not much more that can be said. A fabulous evening. Again, a beautiful monster with no head, just organically unfolded. We just absolutely exquisite job. Thank you, everyone, for being here, being so open-hearted and supportive of one another. Of course, as we all know, it's only a matter of time before the next opportunity to celebrate the passing of someone, because we're all passing, and we got to be sad and exuberant. There's no choice. That's the double-edged sword we're all, as human beings, on. So,
We get the point.
Lord have mercy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
That's a nice way to close.
That's too funny.
How you doing? Nice to see you.
That's too funny, Charles. It's called the Zen drum. They make these in Atlanta.
I don't know why,
I invented one when I first started playing with Robert, and then over the years, this company in Georgia made me my own. They made a special one for me, and that's what that is. Yes. Yeah. So I started playing my own thing in 1995, and then I met Robert in.
Are you guys in the street? Come say hi.
And then we did that record in 2006.
Right?
Wow. And then I did other gigs with Robert with a version of this, an older version of this that we did.
I'm Andy. Yeah, we live on the corner of Prentice and John Bell.
All the drumming is me doing live. Yeah, all that stuff. The sequence, Robert, that's all in there.
Come see us.
Putting Robert in there was the trip.
Back to the snow.
Angelo, man, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. I'm so, which was under better circumstances, but at the same time, it's a wonderful celebration of Robert.
Yes, it is.
I'm glad I came.
Thank you.
I've never met a mic that I didn't like.
So, Unger Man,
Hey, man,
I'll be in touch, bro. Huh?
Just gotta wait till another event like this.
Yeah, no, I know. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I gotta get you up to truck. I got hooked up with the whole trucking music school people.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Oh, I broke this out. They lost their minds. Yeah. So the players aren't. Yeah, we're done, Shay. Shay, I just landed. Dude, forget it. But we done. Oh,
Mike Shay?
yeah.
Oh my God. Man, I love
Oh,
that
he
guy.
just landed. I know. I love him too. But we'll get it together. But yeah, I'll keep you posted, man.
Okay, man. Yeah, we're gonna come up with the weather breaks, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're going back to Sacramento tonight and then trucking tomorrow. So.
Smart move, man.
Yeah. Well, we came out on Monday to avoid the mess, right?
Yeah.
That was just crazy. They were trying to kill me. I mean, you know how much snow we get up there, so.
I'm telling you, I saw the last one.
Yeah.
Always so fun.
So this is good, man. I'm glad Dennis was here because, Robert could piss people off. You know, I had to cut Robert back because he started fighting with Celia. And that's why I stopped doing shit. He wanted you and I to do more stuff with him. Choreographed. I like Robert, I don't have time for all that. I mean, I love you, dude, but I want to do my instrumental shit. I'd keep doing the poetry thing if you weren't too demanding. But then, we got in a big political argument with Celia, and I was like, Robert, you know, you and I are still good, but you can't diss my girl and then expect me to do shit. Yeah, I told him, I said,
I know it, man. That's hey, nothing but one, man. You leave the woman out of anything.
I mean, I would see them at, Albertsons or Lucky's or whatever, whatever whichever that one is at Fulton Stadium or whatever that is. And he'd smile, and he'd be all happy. And I'd say, Roberto! And he'd be all happy, but, I couldn't.
He never apologized to Celia, huh?
Nope. Well, but here's what happened. So when Nona died, we got in touch with him and said, damn, Robert, let's just...
Bury the head.
Yeah, man, and love you, bro. He's like, oh, thanks, man. And that was the last time I talked to him. Thank you. Thank you. You should have seen us with Robert back in the day when we had the full quartet. Oh, right, at Fillmore. Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yep. We did a bunch of things at Sheba with Robert. We had, what's his name, that other kid, Colin. He came and played, on bass.
Colin Williams.
Yeah, Colin Williams. He was a good kid. He wasn't Mike Shea, but he was good. Thank you. Robert could piss people off at times, and so he got into it with my wife one time, and I was like, Robert, I love you, but you can't, he got into it with Celia one time, Yeah, I know Robert, and I would see him, and I'm like, Robert, I love you, but you can't diss my wife, and, expect me to keep playing with you. I can't do it. He did that with a lot of people. With his best friends from New Jersey. There's one of his best friends in the world. He didn't come tonight, Ken. He didn't come tonight. He doesn't believe this. Yeah, we talk to Ken all the time. He comes and sees us in Truckee. We know him in Sarah. He didn't come for two reasons. One, he doesn't like coming out of Bellini's. Two, he's been to a few funerals, and he and Robert were so close, I think it's too emotional for him. Okay, well, Celia, my wife, she'll hook you up. Yeah, she's standing there talking to Charles's wife. She's right there in the gray hair. Here she's talking, standing up with Valencia. She knows Ken very well. Ooh, sorry. Oh, no. Oh, Robert, love. Whose mom was? Yeah. Yes. With Ken, okay, yeah. We talk to Ken all the time. This was too emotional for Ken. He couldn't do it. Yeah, okay. All right. Hey, Andrew, thanks, dude. Wow, my man. Thank you. Oh, yeah, no.
Hold on to that wine, man.
No, it's my pleasure, and I had a lot of fun with Robert. We didn't always see eye to eye.
Well, I don't think
Robert pissed a lot of people off.
I was going to say, I don't think anybody can always see eye to eye.
But in the end,
now that I heard this about his father, it makes a lot more sense.
does, doesn't it? Last time I talked to Robert, was right after Nona died. Right, that's the last time. But we've been living up in Lake Tahoe, so we didn't, we moved away, and so that, that sort of ended that. But yeah, no, I'll always love Robert. We had some great times together. Really great times. Great memories, all of that. So yeah, and what's your name again? Christina. Eric Smith. Well, if you oh. Well, Robert wasn't really as he should have been. I mean, the music thing. I mean, it got to a point where Robert loved it so much he wanted a bit more of me and Charles than we were willing to give, right? Because he wanted let's choreograph this, man, and let's time it, let's have special effects. And I'm like, Robert, I don't have time for that.
Well, it sounded like I did this with
okay.
And some, and he was like, hey, I'll just lead in and you just go.
Yeah.
And it always worked out just great.
Yeah.
But
no, in the end, like I said, the last time I talked to him was right after Nona died, and we had all buried the hatchet. And then next thing you know, Robert's gone. So, and Dennis, you know what time it was dealing with Robert and Ken. So all those guys. I mean, we still talk to Ken. We tried to talk to Ken. We did a thing at the Musicians Union months ago, right after Robert died, where my guitarist Peter and I did a bunch of this sort of stuff without Charles. There was hardly anybody there. That's why we heard the red tone is. You know what time it is. Oh, that's my boy. Unger Vision. He is awesome. And you, well.
yes,
Not bad. Not bad. I can carry a beat.
We've done so much work.
Oh yeah, we did a lot of stuff with Robert. Oh my, and he recorded Robert and I live, and oh my God. I mean,
Well, it sounded on that UFQ. I was listening back. When he was reading, he was almost sort of growling a little, and I thought, is that him, or is he going through some effect?
I put effects on Robert.
I thought so.
I put harmonizers and I put Celia's Digitech harmonizing and so it dropped an octave. The out comes along and all that. Yeah. No, I don't.
He never did that one. He didn't record that.
I never recorded that with him. The only stuff and he had a lot of Wii stuff.
Yeah. Well,
that
CD is. I mean, there's a lot on.
There's a lot on there. But Robert, to his credit, he picked the things that he thought would work with me and Charles. So there's a lot of, and there's all right,
I'll see you.
Dude, I'll be in touch.
Nice to see you.
I uploaded all this shit to Talib, but Talib's on his own. He's mixing it and doing his thing, and dude, I'm putting it out of Bandcamp.
Well, I know he was in England, and I hooked him up with a lot of people.
Right. He's back in New Mexico now.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
He's back.
But the scene in London is crazy.
Oh, I know. Talib is. I was honored he did shit with me. I'm using the whole sensory percussion shit.
I have a lot of his stuff in the can. He did duets with Chloe that we never put out.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And but she's between those two, she's a monster.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know.
That's just wild.
No, your girl is the bomb. Your girl's the bomb.
Anyway,
all right.
You should see her daughter.
I know, I saw that. You sent me the video. I saw that shit. Everybody's kid's a prodigy. They're sickening.
I'll see you later.
All right, my man. Tell Pauline I said hey.
I will.
Okay, love her. Dennis, dude, yeah, like I said, we talk to Ken all the time.
Oh, yeah.
We do. And so the falling outs and all of that shit. And I know, dude, I know. He told me. We know. He comes.
I don't get it.
We can chop that up another time. But I'm sure it's Deborah related, it's Robert related, and it's Ken. You grew up with him, you know what time it is, right? So I appeared on the scene. Y'all were already married, kids, everything. By the time I showed up, and Celia had her whole history with Ken. So I'm like, that's over there. But dude, we were thinking about you. I still got the painting you did of me at the house.
Oh, good.
Dude, and the bridges or whatever, the cranes at Bayview Hunters Point. You still have your studio in Bayview, or you just up in Shasta? Yeah. Dude, we need to come up there sometime.
Yeah.
We go by by there thinking about it. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. Nice meeting you. And if you want to get in touch with me, look for Robert, Anbian, and the Unidentified Flying Quartet. You'll find it all. It isn't, but my email's on there. Because we're living in Truckee.
Right, that's serious.
Yeah, we live in Truckee full time. That's how we roll. Sold the Victorian. You know what that's like. We don't have any neighbors. We don't have any neighbors blindsiding us and knocking us down the steps like they did to your ass. That motherfucker.
Snow shovel.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got a snow shovel. I had to buy a new one.
Oh, I meant you wanted me to test his mic, so I'll see ya.
Andrew, thanks, buddy. I'll be in touch, okay? I will definitely be in touch.
Good. If I get up your way, I'll, we'll have to.
Yeah.
But I've been going more.
You always go to Kirkland, dude. I know.
Yeah, but the roads are just all fucked up.
It's open tomorrow. We're going back to Sacramento tonight and then heading back to Truckee first thing in the morning. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we roll.
So what, am I gonna, like in 3 years, Eric Smith, mayor of Truckee?
No. Wrecking Park is as far as I go. Hell no, that's for other people. I'm not doing that shit. You know me better than that. Yeah. Unbelievable, Dennis.
I do love Truckee.
Well, dude, you're welcome to come up sometime.
Oh, I will.
Ken and Sarah have been there a couple times with the dogs and everything. They go to New Hampshire, then they stop in on the way out and on the way back. That's what they do.
No, I want to get through State Street.
Right, I understand.
I've written Ken emails, letters.
Well, I wanted Ken to come to this, but he's like, and like I said, we talk to Ken all the time. Hey, Julie, what's going on, girl? So good to see you. This is a lot nicer than the last time.
I really like these. Did you bring those books away?
Well, that's the original thing we did with Rob. That's how it was meant to be. You know, Brent called me up when I had Peter on guitar, because Peter and I do different stuff. Although we play the music that I do with Robert, but it's instrumental. There's no Robert, and I just threw Robert into it.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. It does. It is, and that's the way it was supposed to be, right? That's how we originally did it. But yeah.
So listen.
Yeah, Dennis, stay in touch, man.
I am.
And I'll talk to Ken and fire his ass up. Punk ass. Yeah, I know. It's like, what else is out there? I mean, the last time we talked to Robert was right after Nona died, and because Robert and Celia had a falling out, and everyone at one time or another. And he and I never had any problems, except he's like, oh man, I want to do more choreographed shit with you and Charles. I'm like, Robert, I've got other jazz shit, other thing I want to do. Your poetry thing is great. I love it. I love you, but I can't do it. Then he picked a fight with Celia, and I was like, dude, I can't do anything with you when you're wailing on my wife. That doesn't happen. Come on. You know, I've just seen that movie over and over again. But you know what? I'm glad we did this for Robert. Robert would have loved this. Nona would have loved it. I was so glad to get some Nona freaking tribute. I mean, come on.
I was so happy that she did that.
Oh, so good.
You know, what happened was Joel, my husband.
Hey, Joel, what's up, main man?
Joel just happened. I mean, he got the word to Beckett calendar because we're coming from music.
We would never have known. I happen to be. I'm on their email list, so he sends out the music for the next couple of weeks. But for some reason, I decided to go on the January calendar to see what was playing, and I see Robert Anbian Memorial.
You know, I didn't even know.
Yeah, you really. But then I let Angelo and.
Yeah, and that was great.
I let Celia know.
Right. Because Angelo, we've stayed in touch with Angelo ever since Robert. Because that was his boy. And that thing you sent out was